welcome to the Burnout Brighter podcast. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. So, I am super excited because I have brought Eve on to talk about what she does. And guys, she's absolutely amazing. She's the sweetest person. And I got the pleasure of meeting her at the gig, which is kind of like an industry thing where you go and you meet people who are doing different things. And she is one of the people that I was super excited to talk to and to continue our conversations. And I had to bring you on the show because what you're doing is absolutely amazing. And we really want to find out how we can support you. And we want to give our listeners who might have children, who might just be interested overall in what you're doing in the industry to help those out, help others out. So again, everybody, this is Eve. Eve, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Thank you. Sure. I'm really pleased to be here. So I'm Eve Crevochet. I'm the executive director of Take This, which is a mental health nonprofit that serves the game industry and the game playing community. And the nonprofit works across game design and mental health representation in games, research on media effects and the ways that games impact our lives, and deals with things that cause mental health challenges for players and for people who work in the industry. And so that means we do a lot of training and workshops in the industry. We do create resources for streamers. And we also spend quite a lot of time thinking about things that contribute to mental distress, like sexual harassment and abuse, online harassment and toxic behavior in games and in game communities and online generally. And so we have a pretty broad remit. We're a very tiny organization. We are officially 2 full-time staff and a number of part-time contractors and employees. And we are mighty but small, and been around since 2012. I've been here for a little over 3 years now, and I love what I do. My background is not in games. My background is in the nonprofit sector. So I've been a fundraiser and a manager and leader for at Girl Scouts, at a social service agency, at an educational organization, like all across. And I also was a yoga teacher for a few years when my daughter was very young. But I come to games through my husband, who runs a small game studio called Spry Fox. And that has been, I was introduced to Take This through his work, and then came on first as a consultant, and then here I am. And I love it. It's like really a fantastic combination of all the things that I care about in the world, and a really cool platform to do really great work with an amazing team. And yep, that's me.
I think that's incredible because our podcast, I mean, like, you're like, yep, that's me. But I mean, that's a lot. That's amazing.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but it's good that you love doing it, right? Because I think when you love doing it and it's part of your passion, you can bring a lot to the table. And the fact that like our podcast, which was like the brainchild of Matt, was our main focus was mental health and gaming. Right. So we've been really trying to talk to other people who are in the industry who are working with that and trying to get the word out about like different games and different avenues and different tools you can use to help yourself with like anxiety or depression and things like that. One of the things that we usually ask our guests is there a game perchance that you've ever played that's kind of helped you through a hard time? Maybe when you were feeling sad or anxious or anything like that?
So the way I play games is I play games to get into a flow state and like let go, because I have a pretty active mind. And so I play lots of puzzle games. It so happens that Spry Fox, my husband's company, makes a lot of puzzle games like Triple Town and Alpha Bear, and so I've played a lot of those over the years, and threes. Recently, I've been playing a lot of threes.
Oh, that's
and
a really
really
good one
what
too.
I use them to, is to get into that flow state where I can my mind goes in a very free association way, because I can use a controller, but I'm really bad at it. Like I didn't grow up using a controller, and so it just isn't comfortable for me, and so it makes me stressed out and kind of sweat.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I play Smash Brothers. I'm just like all
Right?
thumbs.
Like,
yeah, I can't do
I
it.
have played Smash Brothers with my daughter, and I'm so bad at it. And like the joke is that sometimes I can't even find myself on the screen.
Yes! Oh my god,
And-
same. There's too much going on.
I'm like,
Yeah.
but one of the things I do enjoy doing is like watching my husband and my daughter play together, play other games. Like they've played through Zelda Breath of the Wild twice now, and and it's really wonderful. She's 10, and so he's really kind of working to bring her into games in a beautiful way and in a very sweet way, because they love to play together. And for a long time when she was really little, it was just Super Mario Kart 8.
Yeah. Very kid friendly.
And it was super kid friendly. And we had it on the Wii, so we had the little
steering wheel
things, and those worked quite well.
Cute.
Those were great. And then recently we've gotten into D&D. And my husband's
nice.
Yeah, he's running a game for our daughter and two of her friends that were part of our pod
so cute.
that were in our pod. And that's been really cool to watch them. And they like this afternoon they were running their own game for themselves.
Oh, that's amazing.
Nice.
Like storytelling and putting it all together. And it's kind of amazing to watch that take shape. So we've always been big board game people, and D&D fits right into that. And and then puzzle games, and then like I loved watching them play Zelda. And years ago when Portal first came out, I loved watching and listening to my husband may play that game. It was really funny, like I'd be in the kitchen cooking dinner and I'd listen to it, and it was hilarious. It was so much fun, and we enjoyed that together. Yeah, it was great.
That's
Portal's
so
brilliant.
cute.
Yeah.
Also, just for our listeners, we actually did a review for one of the games that her husband produced, which is called Cozy Grove.
Yes.
So please go check it out. It's amazing. The flow, the color, the art style, the music is incredible. If you want to know anything else, go check out our videos for our reviews and you will see it. But
I have to say something.
Oh, please do.
Because it's a point of pride also that the music was composed by my brother and our cousin.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
I forgot you told me that when we talked a while ago. Yeah.
My
he's
partner,
a professional. Yeah.
My partner loves playing Cozy Grove right before bed because the music gets her so relaxed and so soothed that she's like, I'm going to play this for half an hour before I go to sleep. And then when I'm done this, this day of my tasks, the music just helps put me to sleep. Like it's just, it's so relaxing. It's so well done.
Relaxing.
But in a good way.
So well
Puts
done.
him to sleep in
the
good
best way.
Yes.
I totally get it. Yeah, they're not games composers. Like their music is actually really out there and very different. It's not in the games world, but it just really works for a game.
It fits really well. Like Cozy Grove's music fits the whole kind of environment and theme really well. Yeah. So I know that we have to ask a random question, and
Destiny's not looking forward to this.
I am not. I was trying to think of something, but I feel like my questions are kind of lame. And
come on.
So
Destiny.
No,
it's a random question. Anything goes.
Anything goes.
Okay. All right.
I believe in you. You got this.
All right. What is okay? I'm looking around my room because I'm.
See, so for some context, Eve, I'm always the one doing this. Almost every episode, I'm the one handling the random questions, except for the few times that Darren or Destiny has hosted. So for me, it's a lot of fun because as I look around my room, they give me a lot of shit.
It's not fair because, like, the thing is that I want all our listeners to know he told me I had to do this right before the show. Otherwise, I would have prepared.
I understand.
Okay. All right.
So you have one? Okay.
Yes. If you could have dinner with any famous person from history, who would you pick and what would you have?
Oh gosh, I've thought about this a lot.
Good question, Destiny.
I really
have. That was awesome.
It's not like I have a good answer, but so as a kid, I read a couple of biographies of Martin Luther King Jr. and I was just transfixed. It was like, this is an amazing thing. Mm-hmm. And and over the years, like I internalized and understood that differently, and really like internalized the understanding of what it means to do social change. Like, this is my work, right? Like, and how you do that, and what it means to have a movement and run it and be leader. And my understanding of like what a leader is in a social movement evolved over time. But I would be very interested to talk to him. And I'd also I really, really want to talk to one or two of the women who were around in that period when monotheism began, and like polytheism and more female-centered religious practice changed, like what it felt like to be in that nexus, and if it was recognizable as a change.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, no, that's deep.
Yeah. So
you said you didn't have a good answer, but that sounds like a pretty good answer.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
That's a fantastic answer.
Like, now I'm like, I wonder how that was too. Because
I was sitting here, I was like, does Spider-Man count as a historical figure? Meanwhile, it has this like well thought out, great answer.
He definitely doesn't. But
talk to you.
No. Someone
Here's
you
the
can
thing.
actually meet.
Yeah, I mean that last answer is like not a person. That's kind of a punt, but it's really interesting. So like, you know, what those and it would be really interesting to have those people in the room together, because they're both, you know, aware of the same religious narrative, but at different places and different times. And what would I want to eat? I would want to eat. Now, this is where
this is the hard part.
I'm excited. I want to know.
I think that I would want an appetizer of like a mango, a spicy mango salsa.
Ah.
Nice.
And something like some, you know, vehicle for it.
Oh my god.
Some sort of like some sort of grain salad, like
like quinoa or something.
Quinoa salad, something like that.
Yeah.
With a really good like feta.
I had feta earlier today. It's delicious.
Right?
Such
And because I'm hungry and my husband's making dinner right now, grilled salmon or trout.
Oh,
nice.
He's really good at it. And for dessert, anything chocolate, preferably the darkest.
I think that's nice, because you set up the appetizer, like the salad, the main entree, and dessert. I was like, pizza.
I am a bit of a foodie, and we garden a lot, and we grow, and so like I confess to having put a lot of thought into things like food.
No, it's good. Yeah. That was a really good answer. Yeah. That was great. All right, so now it's your turn.
Ask us
a random question. You can do one for all of us, or you can ask us each a different question. It's up to you.
Yeah, and now that you've set the bar for your answers, your questions have to be just as good as the answer you just said.
Wow, Darren's putting on some pressure.
How do I find the dumbest answer possible in the shortest amount of time?
Yeah, that's Matt.
Okay. If you could design any piece of jewelry for you to wear, what would it be and why?
This question for all of us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like Moonstone just because of the feminine energy behind it. So I think I would wear a pendant just because I think my fingers look really chubby with rings on them. And because I feel like I wear such different hairstyles that sometimes you can't see my earrings, but most of the time you can see if I'm wearing, not today because I'm wearing a hoodie, but most of the time you can see if I'm wearing a necklace or something. So I think a really nice pendant, possibly platinum or silver, because I just like those colors, and maybe like a cat that's holding on to the moonstone, because I really love cats. And
that's adorable.
Yeah, Zuri, my kitty Zuri just passed away, so I'd probably do something to like pay homage in remembrance of my baby. So that's
Oh, and I'll add an addendum. Like a watch or something is a piece of jewelry, right?
True.
Oh, don't worry. I've already got my answer as well.
Oh, okay.
I have mine too, Darren. Do you want to rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first?
You just
Ready?
go. No.
Rock, paper, scissors,
okay.
shoot.
He said
fine.
no. He said no.
Yeah,
don't you remember last time Destiny and I tried to play rock, paper, scissors?
It was like off. Like the camera
did not work at all.
Okay, it's part of the fun. It's okay. Okay, I'll go first. I'd want to design like bracelets. I would want 2, like one on each arm. And they would be kind of like slightly arm length bracelets, and I kind of want them to be like silver.
Bracers.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good word for it. And then they would both have like almost like a little like lever coming off of them, so that if I pressed a button, some web would shoot out, and I could bring things to me quickly and easily from across the room. I could attempt to move with them, not well. I would want silver metallic bracers with little levers coming out that shoot webs.
So are they just plain, or do they have like anything on them, or
are they
no
like
design?
Finished? Are they brushed?
They are. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know. Sounds great, Matt.
Thank you,
Darren.
Matt accomplished his goal of trying to find the dumbest answer.
The dumbest answer,
possible amount of time.
Yep.
I love it, Matt. No,
I take offense to that.
I would actually love to have bracers that shot webs as well. So I can't complain.
Okay, so.
But the way I took it is because you're saying I got to design a new piece of jewelry. So I want to like develop a kind of jewelry that we don't have that's worn in a different way. So I don't know. I think it's like ever since I was in high school and I played a lot of Halo, I was obsessed with any character that allows me to customize armor. I love asymmetrical shoulder pauldrons. So I would develop some kind of jewelry that's like a one-shouldered shoulder pauldron that's kind of got like leather straps and like maybe some bronze pieces as like accents that would maybe kind of just like drape over the shoulder. And if I was going to have a tattoo, I'd also want to do some kind of shoulder tattoo as well. I don't know what it is about shoulders. I like them, and I like devices on them.
I mean,
I don't even feel like you needed to explain that, but thank you. Now we know. Shoulders are one of your things. Okay.
So I mean,
it's also like, every day.
You look at like Mad Max. He had like the shoulder thing, and then like Fallout the 4 outfit. It's got, I don't know. I like shoulder accents. So some kind of like bronze, copper, leather shoulder accent, I think would be.
They're called something, and
cool.
I can't think of it. It starts with a P, but I can't think of what
they're
called.
Is it a pauldron?
Is it a pauldron?
Is it a pauldron? Maybe I'm wrong.
What's
I don't know.
Epaulette or epaulet? What's that? That's like isn't that the like strap on a suit, like a military jacket?
I feel like that's the strap on this military.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think you're right. P-A-U-L.
Or a leather rivet.
Right? Pauldron or something? P-A-U-L? Okay.
Yeah.
I only know that because I played video games, and like some of the stuff, some of the armor was called that. And I was like, I think that sounds cool. Anyways.
Yeah, I hope that fits your definition of jewelry, because that's all my.
Totally.
I mean, it's an accent.
Absolutely.
That was a good question. I think that was a good question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, as long as Darren's satisfied with the question, it's all good. So,
I love the question. I think it was a great question.
I'm just saying, you were like, it has to be on a certain part, so I was checking.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I gotta stop talking sometimes.
But no, Darren, you should talk more. But moving on. So, one of the things that I wanted to bring you on to talk about is you gave us like a brief description of kind of what you do, but like about the organization. Why can't I talk? The organization itself. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And if people wanted to help join the cause, what kind of like avenues should you take if you want to be a part of this change and what you're doing within the industry?
Yeah. So thank you So the work that we do primarily is we use the clinical and research expertise of our team to educate people, and that looks like a lot of things. It looks like public speaking and like coming on a podcast, for example, and like this kind of work is a really important part of what we do. And it means that we have a really robust social media presence. You know, we produce a ton of content. We stream every Monday. We have mental health minutes that are like little video pieces that come up on Twitter and are saved on our YouTube page. We have a ton of resources written and video on our website. We have a Discord community. So if you go to our website, takethis.org, we have a mental health resources page that is like how to find help, how to find good crisis support hotlines and emotional support hotlines and warm lines, and also like how to find a therapist and how to connect to community. And then we can also, we have a community resources page with our Discord and all of that stuff. We have a streaming ambassador network. So we pretty carefully vet streamers who are mental health advocates and who are kind of safe and supportive and warm places to be on the internet, or on Twitch mostly. And that community continues to grow. And so you can go on our website and find the streaming ambassadors and connect to those people in their communities, which are also great places to be. And then we continue to do work in the industry around education and skill building. We work with across a variety of things, and increasingly we're working to support folks who are dealing with harassment and abuse issues and burnout issues and community management and moderation issues. And that work over the long term, I hope, is really systemic work. Like, I'm really thinking about that in terms of how do we change the cultural assumptions and the standards and like basic operating space of an industry, and use that as a platform to address some of the larger cultural systemic issues. So I think I covered all the pieces, and we conduct original research as well on a range of issues around dark participation, media effects, games, etc. We also do game reads and other assessments of games.
I think that's incredible.
So, something that I was curious about, when I was doing research and I was looking around the website, there was a video, like a teaser video that you and a few others were involved in, and something that you said kind of really stood out to me. So what I want to know is, like, what kind of unique mental health challenges may stand out in the gaming industry, or maybe in certain ways, because I think you said something along the lines of, like, you know, working in this industry because there are certain things that can be different or can't. So, like, how does the industry itself, along with mental health, how do those things kind of go together in a way that you might not see elsewhere or might require extra care here?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
That's a really good question. So one of the biggest ones that we talk about a lot is crunch, right? I was talking to somebody else earlier today about this, and crunch is it's an aspect of the industry that people think of it as a monolithic thing, but I actually think it's a symptom of a larger set of issues around
Right.
scoping and management and boundary setting that like don't work in companies. And it has become the norm, or it became the norm about, you know, the way games are made. And it is decreasing in frequency some, but not a lot. And it's still pretty common, and it's still, you still make a big deal or make a big wave when you say we don't crunch and mean it, you know. And that's especially the case in the US and in Eastern Europe and in Asia, where labor laws are not as strong, and there's more space for that to occur and enforcement, right? So yeah, that's a big one. The other one is another big one is that games exist online. So the industry exists in an online space, which means that we have to deal with the internet as a matter of course, not as a matter of like convenience. And that's really hard. It's hard on developers. It's hard on folks who manage communities, and it's hard on leaders and it shapes a lot of the ways in which the industry thinks about its audience and its fans, because there's a small group of very loud people on the internet, and they can be really dangerous, quite frankly, right? So the norms of the industry, the worst norms of the internet, show up in games in a way that's really pernicious. Oh, and I have family coming to check on me. What's up? Oh, do you have food for me? I was talking about food. Look at this. Oh my gosh.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Thank you for making
Thank
cool
you
games.
for making cool games.
They thank you for making cool games.
Oh, you're very welcome.
They love Cozy Grove. He was even wearing a Cozy Grove shirt when he came in.
Oh my God. Was he?
Adorable.
We missed it.
I forget which one was on it. Ooh, and there's some of that trout that I was talking about. It smells really good. I'm going to be totally rude and eat this while we talk.
No,
about,
please
go ahead.
Please eat.
But the okay, so there's internet, there's the there's crunch, and then like this is not unique to games, but I think the magnitude and the intensity of it is, and that is sexual abuse and harassment. And what's so interesting about games, in the same way that it is interesting about other parts of the entertainment industry, right, is that games have the ability, as games themselves are both shapers of and shaped by culture, right? We create games because of tropes that exist already, and we reflect that back to the community that plays them, and we also shape narratives. And so it's not just about like the experience of working in games, but then the products we create, and those are intimately related. And so that's what's so interesting to me. And those are the things that are really important. And then there's stuff like the media perception of games, and like the moral panic around games that's really not great, and that people have to be like, oh, games are addictive. Like when I say to someone who's not in games at all, when I say I do mental health work in games, they're like, oh, you deal with game addiction? I'm like, come on.
There's so much,
or
there's so much
violence,
more.
or,
right.
That,
and like the science on that stuff is not there. And so part of what we do is also like act as an advocate for games at the same time as trying to be a really constructive critic for games, because games are wonderful and they're transporting, and they are they're an entire community and space, and we should really recognize what they do for good as much as what the challenges can be.
I absolutely agree. Hold on, I just want to give her time to take a bite of her food.
Yeah, I was gonna
and I just
jump
wanted
into
to
another
say,
question.
no, because I want her to eat too. So I was like, okay, let's add some commentary here.
Yeah,
but,
let's talk.
I remember and I think we talked about this a while, because the fact of like toxicity within the gaming industry, we've had a few talks on in our podcast. And I remember bringing up the fact that like, it was kind of like the same issue when we had like, I'm going to bring up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because those are my babies. But I remember there was a huge outcry because they were saying the cartoon was too violent and kids were trying to do the same moves. And then like a little boy died because something happened, which I mean, like, God forbid, that's so sad. But like, you can't blame, it's not like everybody's watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and like going out there and trying to do karate moves. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, and I feel
before they were like complaining about violent video games, they were complaining about, oh, it's violent music. And before that, they're
music
about,
or like rap music is what like
it was newspapers, like the same
before then. Oh yeah,
when newspapers started, there was
people just
about that. Yeah,
want something to blame, or I think it's just in our nature to like, if we don't understand why a phenomenon is happening or we can't wrap our mind around it, we need to give it something, right? So for example, like back in the day with religion, like if there was a drought, like it wasn't just because it was super hot that summer, it was because like we pissed off some god and he was like, y'all ain't eating for the rest of winter. Like that's what's happening right now. Chieftain Jojo pissed me off.
Yeah.
Right.
So
things are
it's
complicated.
incredible.
Yeah, things are complicated. Like the world is complicated,
right?
And there's so many aspects, like the phenomenon of a kid like dying because they, you know, like what were the
Mimic
steps that
something.
had, right? That they, what were the steps you had to go through to get there? And like, you know, a
Exactly.
kid had to watch that without having some parent or some understanding that like of the difference between make believe and real. You know, there's no context. There's no, you know, what's the level of supervision? What's going on in that kid's head at that moment? Like, there's and like sometimes just shit happens. So
Right.
it's like, you know, we don't have public narratives and media narratives don't have a lot of space for nuance. And in fact, the world is really nuanced.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
And the truth is that you can't control I mean, there's only so much control that you can have over a child or an individual. Like the same thing goes as if you're raising your kid and you could have been teaching them all the right moral, quote unquote, what you thought was moral. And they turn out to, you know, they're going to do what they want to do. Like kids are always like pushing. I remember when I was little, from watching cartoons, I thought if I got hit by a car, I wouldn't hurt, because just watching Bugs Bunny and them like, and the coyote, like you guys, like I was like, oh yeah, if like I fall off a cliff, I'll be fine. Like I'll just make a dent.
Just run in the air.
Okay.
A bit of smoke will come up. I'll yell the entire way down. It'll be
right?
cool.
Like, or sometimes you can run out into thin air and you're still walking for a little bit before you plummet. Like obviously. And quicksand is the most dangerous thing in the world. So, I mean, you know, like there's so many things that like go into like raising a child that it can't just be they saw an episode and tried it and then died. Right.
I also think it's one of those situations where it's a lot easier to find an external source of the problem than it is to look inside. Is it my ability as a parent? Is it my child's ability as the whatever, right? Like it's so much easier to say they did it, it's their fault, than it is to say, is there a deeper problem? Is there something else going on here that we need to take a look at, rather than it just being
5 or 10 different things that all came
in
the most complicated and unfortunate way. Yeah. I mean, you know, that's another thing. That's what's interesting about working in mental health, doing this work, because I don't have a mental health like degree or background. That's, you know, that's what my team has. They're all experts. And what I've really come to understand is, you know, there's mental illness, like really there's major psychiatric illnesses, which are really challenging to deal with and challenging to treat and live with, right? And then there's the like all the other stuff that mental well-being, that like kind of scale of mental well-being and distress and emotional management and all of that stuff, where it's like it's like lots of discipline around self-reflection and holding competing ideas in your head at the same time, and like having lots of language and maturity to process different things. And like that stuff, it's hard. It's practice and skill. Like it's not simple.
Right. There's also the idea of that like you're a product of your environment, you know, like your society that you live within. So like I know they did the study on Tourette's, and they were saying in like the US and like Europe and a couple of places there, people's Tourette's seem to be more negative and violent versus some other countries where their society is completely different. So they'll like say things, but they won't be like fuck you and da 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 da. Like, it'll be more positive. So that's also something that we have to take into account as well. And I know this is kind of like a tangent, but I remember talking to someone about like serial killers based on like race within the United States. And basically the conversation came up to like, well, there are not many people of color who are serial killers in the United States. And I said, I think that's because like we're taught from a very young age to be afraid of the system. And so like we don't go out of our way to do something that would get us caught up. Like we go out of our way most of the time to stay away from that. Like we don't try to bring attention to ourselves. And what's really interesting is that the fact that when a lot of Black men or people of color were incarcerated for drugs, it's because our own communities were infiltrated, not because we went out of our way to go outside those communities and do things like that. So there's so many different reasons why a person or even a child may end up doing what they do. And there's I don't think there's ever one thing that we can pinpoint and say that's the reason
Exactly.
why.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah. Go on.
something that I was curious about, and I'm not sure if you've seen all the discourse on Twitter the last couple of days around Boyfriend Dungeon.
Yeah, I was just catching up on that earlier this afternoon.
Yeah. So for anyone who's unaware, Boyfriend Dungeon is a new game that just came out, and basically what it is, it's a visual novel dating simulator, while also there's like an action element to it. And for spoilers, if you want to go in completely unaware into the game, very, very light spoilers here, but there is like an actual antagonistic relationship in the game that, you know, does go into stalking and does go into, you know, negative aspects of some relationships and you know, in mental health in some way. The developers were very forthcoming about certain things with their content warning, but not others. And I kind of wanted to, you know, ask your opinion a little bit, just because like I feel, you know, personally from the outside looking in, there's kind of two avenues. There's one, like there's the artistic side of it where I played plenty of games where there are twists, there are turns, there are things that are unexpected. And at the same time, like Boyfriend Dungeon kind of goes out of its way at the beginning to say, are you comfortable with receiving texts from your mother? Like we can disable this. Like should the developers have to worry about every single content warning possible? Because then the thing is, rolling into the content warning screen would be 100 pages long. Or is it that should be happening regardless of kind of artistic intent? If I'm making sense here.
Yeah. You totally are making sense, and this is complicated. One of my colleagues, Dr. Kelly Dunlap, did a great talk on content warnings and ethics at GDC earlier this summer, and that's up. And actually, it was just retweeted out by Celia Hoden, who's a really fantastic ethicist in games these days, and talking about this very specific thing. And the thing is that, yes, content warnings are there for a reason. People have all kinds of triggers. People have arachnophobia, and I've been talking to accessibility folks across the industry about this too. Like, there's legitimate reasons all the time to make content warnings. Now, if you are, if you're going into a horror or a scary game, like, you should expect to get scared. That's kind of the point.
Right.
But the specific nature of those fears can be really awful for some people and not for others. Right. And it's, you know, it's worth knowing that. It's worth having that tool at your disposal. So content warnings that are specific and are clear and provide you with opt-out opportunities are good. They really are. And also understand, like, as a game designer and as a narrative designer, as a writer and a producer of content in games, it's also important to know what you have the skill and authority to describe and what you don't. Right? Okay. Like, we often hold up Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice as such a fantastic example, because one, it was created with the explicit input of both psychiatrists, psychologists, and people with lived experience, people with schizophrenia. And those people shaped the content of the game. And then the content warning was very specific about psychiatric illness and its portrayal in the game, with a chance to opt out and walk away. That. Yeah. Right.
I feel
and it
like
did not ruin the game. Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the game you guys had me play? That, like,
I was actually just gonna say
Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yeah,
Doki Literature Club is another example.
I think it definitely had like a warning, but I really wish it would have gone into more detail at the beginning, because then I definitely would have been like, guys, I'm not going to play this game, right? Because I felt like there were some very just really fucked up visuals and things that I was not at all prepared for, and it left me feeling really low after playing that game.
Yeah, there are some great games with bad content warnings that ruin it for people. You know, Doki Doki Literature Club is one. Sea of Solitude doesn't have quite enough of an explicit content warning on it. We love that game, but it's like these are things that are hard. They're not the norm in the industry, and so it's like it's hard to do well. And
right.
There's language about how to do it well. We just consulted on Psychonauts 2, and there's a really great content warning on it now because we told them to put it in there. And other games also give you really, really specific ways to opt out of different parts of the gameplay. Like we won't show you spiders, or we won't,
right.
Grounded.
And that's both accessibility and it's accessibility in a really broad sense. So
yeah, and I think that's great because you can't tell what people are going to, but if you give them the option, then that's amazing. And one of the things, since we're talking about this, I just put up a game review for a game called Your Boyfriend, which is about a stalker. He's like crazy, so it's like a visual novel. But one of the things that they're doing, because I read up, they didn't realize it would get so popular, but they're actually making 2 versions of the game. So there's one version where it's 18 plus, and then another version where people under that age can play it. And I think that's just because of how graphic it's going to become. And I thought that was interesting because I don't know of any other game that actually has like a toned down version that you can buy versus like a version you could buy that's more graphic. So kudos to them. I mean, they're very small and everything, but I just thought that was another way that you can go about pushing your game and letting people know that like, hey, like we realize our game has a lot of like stuff in it that's may not be like, friendly. Obviously it's not friendly, but
yeah.
it's about a stalker, obviously. But I just think that's really great, which I will be playing the 18 plus version and the other version just so I can see the difference.
Cool.
In between, and then we'll talk about it on the show later. But if you want to check it out, I'll give you information about it because I don't really know if the warning that they have up is enough, and that's only because I've played like the demo. But I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's an interesting thing that happens everywhere in the world, which is that we have a hard time saying exactly what we mean.
Yeah.
And like, it's a thing you have to practice. And it's like, I'm not exempt from this at all, but like saying the exact thing is really useful. And that goes for content warnings too.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's like, it's not, if the game is enjoyable to play, it's going to be enjoyable to play, even if there's a content warning that's really specific.
Right. Like if you want to play the game, you're going to play it. Like that's just how I feel.
Yeah.
Like, and hopefully just for everybody listening, please do your research on games as well, because they don't always give you enough information in the content warning. So, I mean, I know I was supposed to play this Tokidoki without researching it, but like, just research that game if you guys want to play it. But any other game, please research it and see what people are saying. I think that's really, really important, especially if you're somebody who suffers from like anxiety or depression, because playing those types of games can really put you in a state of mind that you do not want to be in. So,
yeah. And like Doki Doki Literature Club, like we worked with Team Salvato who made it. And they did a fundraiser for us, full disclosure. And like, there were so many people who talked about how important it was to them, that game, right? And so it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. Nothing is going to work or play the same
for everybody, right?
Like, it's just, that's the way it is. That's why there's so many games out
Can't
there.
please everybody. I don't think it was a bad game. I just want to put that out there. It just triggered things in me that I was not expecting. And it could have been because like I was playing it late at night and it was like completely dark, and like I just wasn't, the art style is so cute, and then like I wasn't it's kind of like that anime Madoka Magica where I didn't expect certain things to happen. So
So then something else I was curious about, with AFK Online and the AFK room, can you tell us a little bit about like how does that work? How does that function, especially now in a world of everything happening? How do those function? How do those work?
Oh, that's really awesome. Thanks for asking. So the AFK room is one of our oldest programs, and it started as it was started by Dr. Mike Klein, who's now on our board, and he was our first clinical director. And Mark created and designed a space that is like a chill out, low key space. It's the most boring room at PAX. It's the way we describe it. Right? And nothing else is boring at PAX, of course. So, and it's designed not to be a place to get therapy, but just a place to decompress and talk to somebody, a supportive volunteer, if you need it. And we staff it with clinical and non-clinical volunteers, but nobody in the space provides therapy. We do this kind of, this is a very specific style of talking to someone where we help them surface their own solutions and needs, and then help them figure out what the next step needs to be. And sometimes people just need a place for 20 minutes to go where it's quiet and they can color and drink some water and sit down. Like, that's a legitimate use of the room. And sometimes people really need help, and sometimes they need help like identifying a person to reach out to and call or bring into the room and, you know, stay with them. Sometimes they need to understand it's time to leave. You know, they're done with PAX for the day. And other people actually, because PAX is, because the AFK room has become such a fixture at certain conventions, they actually like plan their day around knowing that they can access the room. So,
that's incredible.
Exhibitors often, devs will come in and be like, okay, I know I need a break at some point, and this is the place that will really give me no visual stimulus, no auditory stimulus. You know, it's a really quiet space. And that's really awesome. What we tried to create a version of that in Discord for PAX Online, and we've run it now twice. We're about to run it for a third time for PAX West. And there we have a whole system infrastructure that's been set up where you come in. If you need to talk to somebody, you're eventually, you're put right into a private room with a volunteer. That's escalated if needs be. Otherwise, there's just places that are kind of self-care oriented, different rooms that give people access to what they need. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
No, that's incredible. I don't like conventions, but I know we're going to have to go to some of them. I just get very overwhelmed. Like,
they are.
Yeah, they're very overwhelming and just like a lot of people. And I think that's incredible. I wish I went to one in LA, which was like a huge anime con. And I remember just being like, I'm ready to go home, but your friends aren't ready to go home. So you're kind of just stuck there. So I think that's great that you've created like this very chill space that people can just go and like, they don't have to do anything and they don't have to like have all that visual stimulus. I don't know if like Matt remembers when we went to like the one in Korea, and I was just ready to go like 10 minutes. And like when we got in, I was just like, there's too many people. This is annoying. But I didn't even know spaces like that existed. So
it's a unique experience.
No, I bet.
Yeah. And it's a lot, and it requires a very specific type of energy instead of like kind of processing power and skills. And so so we just we recognize that, and we know that can be also a really traumatic space, and so we want it to be we want to create safe environments. And we work with PAX in particular, we work really closely with the enforcers on the floor, because they are the people who also can direct folks to us and understand, what a crisis looks like and what it doesn't. And
that's really good. That's really good, because sometimes people don't know that they need to go to a space and just relax and chill out, especially like if somebody's having a panic attack or like an anxiety attack. And that's great that people aren't just being kicked out to like deal with it, because that just makes things worse, right?
Well, sometimes we do have to like call an ambulance, right? That doesn't happen very often at all. But sometimes like that's the best way to deal with it. Or call a family member or a friend and be like, this person needs to be removed completely.
But you're still doing it in a way that you're not just like kicking them out
Bye.
and like, get out.
Back in you go.
Like you're still like very much taking their mental health into consideration, which I think is really good.
Well, see, I think this is what's so important about your organization, because as we mentioned previously at the start of this conversation, I do think the video game industry sometimes both in, the actual creation part of the video game industry, but also in the player side of the industry. There are a lot of issues with spaces not being traditionally very inclusive. And so this might be a difficult question to answer, but I would like to talk about it. Is what are some ways that individuals can work towards making a more inclusive space in the game industry, either online or in person? Like how can we be more help towards creating that inclusive environment ourselves?
That was a brilliant segue, by the way. I really like that. And also, that is a giant question, but I'll try to start. So
I know, I'm sorry. It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah,
it is. No, I mean, I have lots of answers. I think is the reason why it's so hard. So inclusion and inclusion is, first I'll say that when you're asking about inclusion in this context, what you're really asking about is how do people feel safe, included, and listened to and validated, like all of those things. It's not just one thing, right? So and it's really easy to get to not even see it not happening, because you assume that the way you experience the world and your work environment and your play environment is the same that everybody else does. And so the place to start really is empathy and perspective taking, like really trying to notice, to step back, step out and be like, is the experience that I'm having in this space or in this situation the same one that everybody around me is having? Who is sidelined or feeling sidelined or not even here, and why? And when you start asking those kinds of questions, a lot of stuff shows up that you didn't expect or didn't see before. And also, especially if you have a lot of privilege, like I do, or like Darren, you do, is as a white cisgendered heterosexual. I assume you're heterosexual. I'm sorry, that's an assumption.
No, it's okay. You are
male,
correct, but
great.
I don't know why that was funny to me.
That's hilarious. But you have we have a lot of privilege, right? And name your own privilege, and then identify the places, the spaces where that privilege doesn't, like the people and situations in which that privilege doesn't exist or matters in a particularly large way, right? And try to do something about it. So like I'm thinking about like in a meeting in a game studio, right? If there's a woman who's not being heard or a Black person who's not being heard, if you have privilege, you make sure that that person's voice is not shunted to the side, is not ignored, is not trivialized. If you see a space that is designed in a way that's going to make people with disabilities have a hard time accessing it, you say something. You like, and there are certain people for whom the cost of saying something is higher than for others.
Yes.
Right. And this, what I'm describing is essentially intersectionality, which is a word that gets thrown around and people don't really understand. So that if you have more privilege and more power and more influence in a space, it is your responsibility to own that and to use it. Right. Right. And that's like, some of that comes with maturity and time. Like I'm 43, and it's only in the last few years that I've really understood what my positionality and privilege give me and what the responsibility is and what the opportunity is there. But I think these conversations are happening much more frequently across culture, and so I think people have an opportunity to be a little bit more educated at a younger age and a little bit more aware. But like, really, that's the essence of it, is like, use your power for good, but also don't be the person to say the thing, be the person to get someone else to say the thing. To get like one of the other things is to shut up and walk and like step back if you have privilege. It is not your voice that we need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, frankly, it's not my voice that we need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So like, one of the things that people with privilege can also do is like, they can speak truth to power without so many repercussions, and then create the space for another person to come in and do what they need to do, say what they need to say. And that is like, it's inclusion and acceptance and validation. They happen like interaction by interaction, micro interaction by micro interaction. It's so subtle and it's so continuous. This is what we mean by a systemic issue. This is what we mean when we talk about a systemic racism or systemic sexism. Mm-hmm. This is what it is. It's like little reinforcing thing by little reinforcing thing. It was the professor in my master's program walking up to me and saying, "How does it feel to look the same age as your students?" I was a TA. Yeah, I was 23 and I looked young, but like, that's not what a 55-year-old white man with a lot of power in the department says to a little first-year master's student.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's not appropriate.
No, I totally agree.
So, it can sometimes be hard to spot and hard to see, but like, and you can get really accustomed to not hearing a voice or find other reasons why you don't hear that voice all the time.
I think that's why, like, even though like Matt and Darren say, "Oh, you don't have to thank us for like talking about like the Black Lives Matter movement and all of those things," it's important that I do thank you, because like I've said before, not a lot of people are open to that discussion or open to using their platform for that discussion. And I think like something that we've taken away from that is that each of our some of the people we've networked with who also happen to be Black have absolutely loved those episodes, because we did include them and they do feel like they're being heard. Right. So I think like I agree to a point, and then like I also believe that like just people of color in general have been screaming so loud that our voices are like hoarse, right? And that I feel like sometimes white people don't want to hear it from us, or they won't listen to us, but they will listen to another white person. So if you feel the need to speak up for me or for someone else, just make sure that you're speaking from a place of education and not just defense. And just to say, like, I know that this is going to, like, it's going to cause issues. You're not always going to be able to have like a nice conversation with somebody who, and you can't be afraid of that. Like, because I know like some of my friends are like, well, I really don't like controversy, or I really don't like, and it's like, look, if you have friends who are, I don't know, part of the LGBTQ plus community, if you have friends who are people of color, like they need you to stand up for them when they're not around. Like you have to be that person, because if you say you care about them, then you care about the causes that are affecting them negatively, right? So just always speak up. And what we were talking about earlier, just like the things that are happening with Activision or whatever, one of the worst things you could do is question someone about their negative experience when you are not a woman or a person of color. Just shut up and listen. Because we've been women like our entire lives, or we've been people of color our entire lives, and we will pick up on things that you won't even think is a slight towards us. Right? So just listen and be willing to open your mouth and be like, hey, yeah, especially if you see it happening, do not fucking sit there and be quiet. Like, be like, hey, that's uncalled for. That's not okay. Because we need that. And we need white cis males to stand with us.
Yeah.
Because you guys are like the majority of what's like ruling like the industry. So we need you guys to stand up and be like, yo, we need to fucking cut this out. This is not okay. So I love the fact that you talked about that, and that like you're talking about creating a safe space, because I feel like just from watching Twitter and seeing people talk about hate raids that they get on Twitch and everything, it's I see that a lot of people of color and women are being like, that's fucked up, that shouldn't happen. But I don't see a lot of men saying like, that's messed up, that shouldn't happen. And that's what we need that.
Yes, we do need it. Yeah, I mean, I think you're so right. I mean, you started talking about like, you know, people not wanting to get political. The thing is that like your life is political. Like every choice you make or don't make is political. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so by not making a choice, you are creating a situation. You are reinforcing a norm. Like silence is complicity. And that's a hard thing, you know, in part, people who are like, I don't want to make waves, they have been taught that is important because it reinforces, it supports the system, it supports the status quo. That is a way of being in the world that is designed to reinforce the status quo. And like you have to unlearn that.
Yeah. Choosing to call a situation or claim that a situation is not political is inherently a political statement. Because
exactly. Yeah.
You're saying like this is not political. I have determined that there is no politics in here, which is a belief that normalcy does not have politics in it, which means I'm going to stop because I'm being cyclical now.
But I get it. The other thing I want to say about this too, because this is really important to me, and it's part of the way that we move forward, that we heal. There's so many, especially white men and people of privilege, white people like me included. Like I have fear of doing the wrong thing and like fucking up, and like I am going to mess up. That is part of this process. Like I don't know how to do this all the time. Not good at it. I don't have practice. It's not part of what society prepares me to do. And so, and people are also so people are afraid of making mistakes, and people are afraid of asking what they think of as the dumb questions. And there are places where it's safe to learn, and I want to be one of those places, and Take This is one of those places, and we're committed to that, because like you don't get here by just shaming a lot of people who've done bad, you know, who've messed up. You get here by repairing, by giving people the tools and the understanding to understand where they can go, how they can be better, and then making the specific repairs that are necessary. And some of that is learning, some of that is action, some of that is policy reform, some of that is like systems like Twitch fixing the bot problem, you know, the hate rate problem. So it's like it is also our responsibility to give those space, to create those spaces and make it possible for people to learn. Because
I really like that you said that.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to just say, for like my people of color out there, I hate this stigma where it's like, I'm not here to educate you. I absolutely hate that, because if somebody is like genuinely asking you information because they want to know and they are trying to understand, please take the time to educate them, because like those are the people who want to help us and want to help women. So like, take that extra step to educate them. And there's a big difference between arguing with somebody who you obviously know is closed off to the ideas that you're trying to instill and explain, compared to somebody who is openly asking you a question and really just doesn't understand. And I think the thing is that like privileged people may realize that racism is there, but have never experienced it, and so don't know the nuances of it. And that's something that we as people of color need to take into account, and not just kind of be assholes to them because they don't understand it, right? Because like you said, you're going to make mistakes, because our society did not bring you up to know that this is what it is and the reflections of it and all of that kind of thing. So to all of our listeners who aren't people of color, I mean, feel free if you ever have any questions to post down here, and also like we'll put the information from Eve so you can go and you can like educate yourself on there's absolutely no reason why you should not be able to educate yourself today on like the atrocities of the past and what's going on today. So educate yourself and ask questions. It is okay. And you can tell when somebody is willing to answer your questions and when they're not. And if somebody's not willing to answer your questions and they get like really like just become an asshole, just step away. Right? Like don't even engage that person anymore, because there are some people of color who have just been so hurt that they can't. They just can't. Yeah. So but there are some of us who are willing to answer your questions. I'm one of them, because the more you know, the better we are as a society and as a world. And you're right, change can come. We just all have to want that change.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of the perfect segue into what I think should be our last question to wrap things up before we head over into news. But I love what Take This is doing with your ambassador program, especially because like one of the things that is so upfront about, you know, when you go there and you start learning about it, is how rigorous the process is to become an ambassador, right? You can't just do it and then, oh, great, I'm an ambassador now. You know, it's not how it works. So what I wanted to ask is not obviously everything, but what are some of the parts that goes into that selection process, and how do you work with your ambassadors, you know, for them to continue to do good?
Awesome. This is actually a really well-timed question, because we are in the process of really shoring up that program and making it into something that we're really excited about. It started kind of as a, like, we want Take This ambassadors. We want people to talk about the organization. We realized really quickly that really primarily these folks are mental health ambassadors, and we want to kind of represent that quality and that those good boundaries. And so what we look for in ambassadors during the application series, and I'm going to put in a plug, we're in the process of producing like an 8-part video series for streamers on mental health topics.
Nice!
And that's
awesome.
going to be free of charge. Yeah. And that is going to be a resource that folks can access as they're trying to understand and learn how to become a really good mental health advocate as a streamer. And we do, we make sure that people have some level of literacy around mental health and know what the boundaries are around how you talk about how you be an advocate versus a professional, like like you don't do therapy online, you don't do, you don't offer diagnoses, you don't offer opinions. That's not safe. And then we make sure that they embody the standards and ideals of Take This around diversity and inclusion, and speaking about diversity and understanding intersectionality, for example, and an understanding of games. And so put all that all together. We make sure there's some quality there. We have an application process, a video interview, and then we watch their streams, and so folks show up, and then there's some level of activity we want to make sure that they maintain so that they're kind of part of us. And then we have an ongoing educational series for the ambassadors, and that's like a year-long process. We really want to. We're building that curriculum out right now, so that when you get to the end of that year of active ambassadorship, you've got a lot of tools in your toolkit. You know how to do crisis response. You know how to support your moderators. You really have you have a lot of education around streaming itself, so you can build that up, and then you can go out into the world. And some of the folks we have are already really accomplished streamers, but we want to provide that added layer of nuance and understanding and education to everybody. And then we, and we want to be able to also bring folks in. And so, we have a lot of resources on our website, a lot of resources that are coming out in the streamer education process that will support streamers and get them ready to apply.
That's incredible. You guys are doing great work. Yeah. I'm so glad we met. Really.
I am too.
I'm so glad you came on.
That was great. That was like one of the only times I've ever done the gig, and I'm really glad I did. So
yeah. No, I feel like that was my favorite time. I'm not trying to ass kiss, but like really. It really was probably my favorite time.
Yeah, I agree. everybody, we'll have all the links in the description below. So please go check Eve out. Please go Take This out, because the amount of work that they're doing is just absolutely incredible and so important, especially in a space where sometimes it's trivialized and sometimes it's made fun of. Let's work together to make things into a better space for everybody. And Take This is doing that. So Eve, thank you so much for what you do, and thank you to everyone else at the organization, the ambassadors, and it's incredible. Thank you for doing what you do.
And thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah,
I know I like dropped the ball. Like I woke up super late today, and then Matt was like, "Yeah, so what time is like Eve coming on?" Like, and I was like, "Oh."
Well, you were in luck. I did not have anything else planned.
I know. I'm so happy. I felt so bad. I was like, so just to let you know, we scheduled you for today.
It worked out perfectly. So thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have this conversation.
Problem.
I hope you join us again in the future as well, because I feel like we've scratched the surface of scratching the surface. I feel like there's so much more that we could dig into. So I hope you come back and join us again in the future, because it
Matt,
was lovely talking to you.
You're so far away that your voice got really distant.
Okay, I'll fix it after.
Yeah. All right. So should I just? I will just close my window.
Oh, we are supposed to have a few minutes left.
Right.
Yeah.
News.
We have a bit of news we're going to jump into together before we close out.
This is topical.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. Let's hop over. I'm going to be pulling from Polygon for our first story called Everything Nintendo Announced at Indie World, written by Michael McWhirter. I apologize if I messed your name up. I'm going to run through the list. We're going to talk about one thing each. That's something that excited us or made us happy. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is coming to Switch next year. Loop Hero is also coming this holiday season. There is a new Shovel Knight game, which is called Pocket Dungeon, which is a puzzle dungeon crawler.
Ooh.
Tetris Effect, Toem, and Metal Slug Tactics are all coming to Switch this fall. Chucklefish's Eastward, which looks so cool. If you haven't seen it,
I love Chucklefish.
I haven't seen it.
Is coming. Looks super interesting. Is coming on September 16th. Axiom Verge 2, and along with the aforementioned Boyfriend Dungeon, Necro Barista Final Pour, Garden Story, which we're reviewing. We'll have something up for you guys soon. Islanders Console Edition, Slime Rancher, Plortable Edition, and Curious Expedition 2 were all stealth dropped on August 11th. And then we also got stuff for Astroneer, which is coming in January. 100 Days Winemaking Simulator is coming this winter. Gang Beasts also this winter. Lumberjack in 2022, and Far Changing Tides early 2022 as well. So we got a big old dump of fantastic looking indie titles. Darren, I'm going to go to you first. What's something from this Indie Direct that got you stoked?
So before I say that, I want to say very quickly, it was very funny that Tetris Effect was announced for Switch, because I just saw a post on Reddit, I think 3 days before the event. Someone's being like, is Tetris Effect ever coming to Switch? And people are like, no, they've already got Tetris 99. There's no point in them releasing Tetris Effect. And then they announced Tetris Effect. But then the one that stands out to me is obviously Axiom Verge 2. I was an absolute super big fan of the first Axiom Verge. I thought it did a fantastic job kind of like mimicking Metroid's style, but also being very kind of meta, fourth wall breaking, knowing it's a video game. Its power-ups involved you like breaking the game itself, like hacking into the code of the game, glitching through walls as power-ups, and just very, very cool stuff. And the second one looks like it's shifted gears entirely to a brand new world, brand new character. And rather than like the Metroid gun-focused combat, they've switched to a melee-focused combat system and include bosses that can all be skipped. Like you don't have to actually fight any of the bosses in the game, apparently. I want to know how that works. So I'm just very excited to try this one out. Yeah, very, very cool.
Super interesting. Yeah, the game looks like it's a lot of fun, and it reviewed like really, really well too. Destiny, what about yourself? Anything from the Indie Direct that got you excited?
I want to do the wine game.
Yes!
Yeah! 100 Days Winemaking Simulator. Well, it's coming this winter. What about that game makes you stoked, D?
The wine.
The wine.
I feel like I've been calling it the long tail of the pandemic. I feel like winter and the long tail of the pandemic, I'm going to need something to accompany my actual wine drinking.
Right? Okay. That's what I just want to like, I don't know. It just seemed like a funny game. So it's like, who sat down and was like, you know what? We should have a game about making wine.
I know.
And I'm like, yeah, we should. Matt, you should be excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how it actually will look, and
yeah,
like I'm not simulators like that,
Yeah, it looks very much kind of like a city builder, except rather than building cities, you're building vineyards and managing your wine production. That looks like it's that kind of game.
I don't know.
I'm interested in like the notes of the wine and like
the tasting part of it.
Putting what wine goes with what food and pairings and all that. That's what I want to know.
Destiny, that sounds like a game idea. Eve, what about yourself? Is the winemaking simulator the thing that popped off to you, or is there anything else from that list that makes you excited?
And Tetris.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tetris Effect is so cool.
Yeah.
As for myself, Eastward looks super, super cool. The trailer is incredibly confusing, but beautiful, but atmospheric. It's just this weird mix of things. I don't really know what the game is, but I'm intrigued. And it's like a month out exactly as of time of recording. So go check it out if you're curious. And just one more news story before we close, because I know this is one that made Destiny and I very happy. Darren, I'm sure, was just sighing loudly in the background. Also coming from Eurogamer, written by Matt Wales. Set photos snapped by fans earlier this year seem to confirm it, but now it's official. Knuckles will be joining Sonic the Hedgehog in Paramount Pictures' upcoming live-action movie sequel, and he'll be played by none other than Idris Elba.
Don't make that face, Darren. Idris Elba is hot. He is gay. He could voice anybody, and I'd be like, you know what? We went to see it, and you said it wasn't that bad, Darren. You said it wasn't that bad.
I also said I didn't really like it, but I said it was. I said the first Sonic movie was better than I thought it would be, but I still didn't like it. But
I don't feel like I'm gonna go back and listen because I don't remember that second part.
Oh no, he did. He did not like it. He was not a fan. You and I were over the moon.
Yeah,
Darren,
we loved it.
I love Idris Elba
being Knuckles. Do anything for you, Darren? Does it raise your hype at all for the movie, or are you just as neutral as before?
Come on, Idris Elba and Jim Carrey.
Well, I think
really good actors.
Idris Elba as Knuckles is an inspired choice. I'm very interested to see how that plays out. And knowing that Sonic's in it. Knowing that Tails and Knuckles are in the movie, it interests me. And based on the ending of the first one, maybe the second one, I think, has a potential to be better, but we'll see. I'm a critic.
Did you watch the first Sonic movie? Did you like it?
I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it.
You didn't?
No.
Does Idris Elba being Knuckles make you more inclined to see the second one at all?
Yes.
See?
Yes, it does.
I didn't even know if I was going to watch it, but then they were like Idris Elba, and I was like, sold.
Yeah.
Would you ever have expected that, Dee? Would you ever expected that we'd have Idris Elba playing Knuckles in the live-action Sonic movie?
The thing is, no, but also not surprised because he's really into like eccentric, cool, like gaming kind of things. So like, it just makes him like super bae, right?
Yeah.
Like even more delicious.
Yeah.
You could have given me a list of like 100 actors, and I don't think I would have ever put him on that list for like who I expected.
No, and he's excited.
Yeah,
he's really excited to play the part.
I really wonder, like, are they going to give him like a British accent then? Because Idris Elba has like a British accent.
Like he could, right?
I'm
Like
saying.
Knuckles could totally have a British accent.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that'd be sexy.
I mean, I feel like he's been in things where he hasn't had an English accent though.
Oh yeah. He's been in a lot of things where he doesn't have an English accent.
I think he could do it.
I'm so glad I like him now. My first introduction to him was not good.
What was it?
Knuckles?
It was not Knuckles. Idris Elba. It was like this movie where it was like war in Africa, and he was like a general, and he was just absolutely terrible.
Beasts of the Southern Wild?
Maybe maybe.
It was a Netflix one.
I don't know. I don't know. But he was absolutely horrible, and I was like, I fucking hate him. And now I love him. So, and I know we're ending, but I just got to tell you guys something really exciting.
Okay.
So I don't know. This is kind of news, but for anybody who loves Transformers, the 1987 animated movie, they're re-releasing it in theaters for a short time.
Oh, really?
Yes. So please check your theaters or whatever, local theaters, because I'm gonna go see that, and I'm I was too young when it first came out, so I am so stoked to see it because it's one of my favorite movies ever. Like, so that's like random news in case you guys are Transformer fans and you didn't like the Michael Bay films because they were garbage.
My husband is a very, very, very.
Oh my god, me too. Look, this is Monopoly.
Oh,
the
Transformers
Monopoly.
Oh my
gosh. Tell him it's in theaters. It's coming out in like September. He can buy tickets early.
I don't know if he'll go to a theater right now, but
yeah, I'm going with the mask on at like
I
3
know.
p.m. when nobody's there.
Yeah, we might have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Destiny, as you did the honors of bringing us into the show, can you please close us out?
Yeah, so sorry, I like had a brain fart because I was still thinking.
Yeah, you're like Transformers.
I was like,
do I go 3 p.m.,
Yeah.
1 p.m.? Do I
Thinking
put the
about
popcorn
Idris
inside my mouth and
Elba.
just chew on it? Or
I'm gonna eat before I go. That's a smart thing to do. But okay,
It is.
so we are coming to an end, and we always ask our guests to just put their information in one more time. Just plug it. We're going to have it down below. So Eve, can you just throw your info out there really quickly, your Twitter, where people can follow Take This and also follow you because you're just as amazing.
That's very lovely. So Take This is at takethis.org and at takethis.org on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram now. And
Nice.
and I'm at Eve Crevachet. And my last name, while long and filled with many unusual consonants, is phonetic.
I love that.
And also on the takethis.org website, if you want to know how to spell it. for
And
sure.
yes, also. So, Eve, thank you so much for coming on. We definitely want to have you on again at some point because you've just been an absolutely amazing guest. Next time, I promise, I will get in touch with you before the day of.
We'll have our moments. And
Right? Shit
here I
happens.
am.
It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. It all worked
Totally
out.
fine. It's totally
But all right, everybody, thank you for tuning in to Burn Out Brighter. We hope that you stay and continue to support us. Thank you so much for coming on, Eve. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Destiny. And
Thank
we will
you.
catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Deuces.
Later.
I want to do the wine game.
Yes!
Yeah.